Hello and welcome back to another episode of HBO Max, a show where we watch and review everything on the streaming platform HBO Max. I am your host, Makenna. Joining me, as per usual, is my co-host, Jose Ruckus, aka Brandon. Brandon, how are you today?
I'm doing really good today.
It's great to hear. And joining us is the one, the only, Mr. Greg Miller. Greg, how are you today?
I am great, McKenna and Brandon. How are you?
Living the life.
So how deep into the HBO Max catalog are we? Are you guys just going alphabetically? Is that what normally happens on this show? You just watch whatever you run into?
We've barely scratched the surface. I don't have a percentage off the top of my head.
The show started off with mostly me bringing movies for McKenna to watch.
Sure.
Then we did a Harry Potter marathon.
You have to,
and then
of course.
We've just been bringing on guests and letting them pick a movie.
For your marathon, did you guys then watch the reunion thing yet? Was that part of you? And have you done that yet?
Yes, it was like a lead up to the reunion.
How was it? Well, I haven't watched it. I see it and I want to click on it, but I don't got time.
I really like that. Harry Potter has sort of been like my brand, for lack of a better term, since I was like 11. So it's like I'm all about that. I thought it was fantastic, but I might be a little biased.
Brandon, what'd you think?
I'm not like super into those kind of things. Like I haven't really liked any of the reunion specials that they've done.
Damn.
It's just like
Not even the Friends one?
The Friends one I think was the one I liked the least. Like
it's
I was
just
like
cool to see them again.
The Fresh Prince one I think was probably the best. But it's just like I don't know, man. Like I've seen Will Smith do a bunch of
I
stuff.
don't know.
Yeah, it was. I will say though, when I watched it, it was really exciting because halfway through there was like fire trucks going by my house. We had to do a drive-by, so like it was like a fun little break in the middle of it. We had to do not a chase, but we did drive-bys.
Not a chase, but a drive-by. No big deal.
we had to check what was going on. It just made me want to watch it even more. So it was great. It was a fun time. Today we'll be discussing Superman. I've only ever seen one Superman movie, so
Which one?
I don't. Superman Man of Tomorrow.
Nice. Okay, so lay it out for what's happened here, ladies and gentlemen. Go ahead, McKenna. It's time for you to attack me. It's time for you to throw me under the bus. I appreciate it. Go for it.
So, as Brandon mentioned, when we have guests on, we let them pick the movie, and Greg picked Superman Man of Tomorrow, and we watched it. Well, not all of us.
4 a.m., ladies and gentlemen. I'm in the nursery. I'm bouncing Benjamin. I'm like, man, podcast day. I can't wait. I'm like, what am I talking about on all these shows again? I started thinking, and then I got to McKenna, and I was like, I said I'd watch Superman Man of Tomorrow. Because there was the thing where you hit me up, and you're like, you need to pick something to review on HBO Max. I'm like, no problem. Like, we use HBO Max all the time, and I was very much like, I don't want to do something we've done recently. There's, I mean, like, obviously, we just went through Peacemaker. We just did a Euphoria screencast. I'm like, I could throw those out there, but that doesn't. I'm like, I went through my my list of things I've stacked up in HBO, and yeah, Superman Man of Tomorrow, if you remember, debuted at DC Fandom 2020 when we were still very much in the dome, and it was free for that weekend. I forgot why I didn't watch it that weekend, and then it went just to be digital and be bought. Then it's on HBO Max, and so it sat there forever and ever and ever, and it's based on at least partly based on Superman American Alien, a comic that I love too, and I was like, this is my chance, this is the one, let's go. And then you guys discovered firsthand why Greg Miller is not on more in review content, because making me watch anything is just for pulling teeth. It's just pulling teeth, because like we watched Scream the past 2 nights, because of course we start watching stuff later for Jen, who goes to bed early, and so we break it up. And even when I'm watching anything, even if I'm enjoying it, it's always all right, Jen's only gonna be awake another 20 minutes, and I can play video games. Then I can get back to WWE. I can start in on Ghostwire Tokyo. I can do all this different stuff. And so last night, Jen went to bed. I booted up Ghostwire to start working on my preview. And then 4 a.m. I'm like sitting there. I'm like, oh no. And then it was like, okay, I got this. And I'm like, I already know that I've overpacked my Friday. I'm already in trouble for the Friday, because of course there's 5 hours of podcast going on right now. But then before this was a business call. Before that was the weekly call for Kind of Funny. And before that was Kevin teching out my setup so that I could run the streams without him or whatever. And so I was like, okay. And there was a moment where Jen relieved me at like, I want to say 5:30 or 6 o'clock in the morning. And there was a moment of like, do I watch this fucking movie right now? And I was like, no, I need sleep. I need sleep. So I went to bed and I was like, I will watch it during the meetings. I will half pay attention to everything. I made it a whole 27 minutes into the movie. I'm enjoying it. I think the Lex is great. It's Zachary Quinto, right? It's Spock, right? He's a great Lex so far. I love the art style of it. You know, it's going places that I enjoy, and it also is so far being kind of right in line with American Alien. I know they cited other references to it. I think it might be because of the Max Landis drama that had happened, the accusations about him being a horrible, horrible person, and so I think that might be why they kind of pulled back when they talked about it being all American Alien. But I digress. I did not watch the movie. I did not do the homework.
It happens. It's okay. I've got questions about Superman in general.
So yeah, that's the easiest thing. This is your first Superman movie. What did you think of it?
I thought it was all right. Like, I know, like, the general Superman, like, general sort of what goes on, but I thought it was fun. I liked the animation style. I liked Darren Criss. So, I mean, that was a good time. I really only know him from Star Kid and Glee. So it's like, oh, he's back. Cool.
He's back in Superman form.
Yeah, so that was pretty fun.
Brandon, what did you think?
Yeah.
It's an interesting movie. It obviously, like, it starts off like very, very American Alien inspired, right? Which I love that comic a lot.
Yeah.
It definitely opens up in scope though about what they're trying to do, because I guess this was the very first movie when they relaunched the animated universe, right? And so they do a lot of things. There's a lot of plot that I don't necessarily think needs to be there. It goes a lot of places. If this is your first Superman, McKenna, it's tough. Like,
Jean-Jo shows
Lobo?
up. Yeah. Who's Lobo? Who's Martian Manhunter?
Like, for most of it, I thought he looked like a member of KISS for, like, I was like, yeah. I guess this is happening.
Why are they hanging out with this janitor so much? What's that?
Yeah, why is he giving coffee to this Rudy Jones guy?
Yeah, I was like, he's gonna help. That maybe that's Superman's sidekick. No, it's quite the opposite.
Parasite, man, you gotta be careful.
Yeah, it's, you know, Superman doing Superman things. Who knows? I don't. So, like, okay, I'm gonna for my first question. So, like, Clark Kent grew up on a farm, correct?
Correct. Smallville, Kansas.
Okay, what kind of farm was it? Do we know that?
Depends on the interpretation you're on. You know what I mean? Of where it is. It's rare that they double down on it all that much. You're not wrong to be like, what the fuck? It's like, yeah, you know, I don't remember even in Smallville, right? Jonathan and Martha Kent have this farm. I never remember them going out and really harvesting crops or taking care of cattle or doing that kind of thing. In Man of Steel, they deal a little bit more with it of, you know, Jonathan talking about like when the flood happened that flooded out the Langs and them having to save all the stuff and die. But yeah, it's just in the chat, Mike Larkey says plot farm. It's just a plot farm. And there's also a bunch of interpretations where it's not like something they wanted. Like it wasn't what Jonathan wanted for his life, but kind of inherited it, so they just live on it.
Can I think that it's a corn farm? Does that follow?
I think in the Richard Donner movies, there's just like big shots of cornfields all the time.
He races through it on his way to school for sure. Yeah.
Can I sidetrack, Brandon? Should I ask Greg my corn question?
I'd love to hear this
corn question.
Yeah.
Okay, how many ears of corn have you eaten in one sitting?
I don't think it's an outrageous number. I would imagine, you know, as a kid, like you're getting the summer corn, like you go to a fair, you get that corn that's like hot and buttery and salty. Maybe 3, but probably something more 2 realistically. I don't know. And I'm talking about
3 is my number.
Yeah, I'm talking about the full thing of corn, not like, you know, they break it in half or whatever. That's not right. I'm adding it up. McKenna, how much corn have you eaten in one sitting?
7. But apparently, according to my sister, I hit 8, but I don't remember it. Like, I don't know if I just, like,
blacked out for the last cob.
For the last one.
Corn drunk.
7. Yeah, it's like, summer, like, that's what just all I eat, essentially, is just corn on the cob. That is my dinner for that night.
Where are you? Like, in what?
I'm in Pennsylvania.
Oh, wow. That much corn, I would have definitely assumed Midwest.
Yeah, I'm back home. I live in Philly right now for school, but back home I'm like right next to like corn country. It's just cornfields everywhere.
Sure.
It's good time. Let me tell you what, it's glorious. Just driving up the road, corn stalks on either side.
You
Good
pull over,
time.
you take one right off, you eat it there. You don't even need to cook it. You don't even need to put it in the water.
Exactly. We were bred to eat it raw, you know.
Defective Sloth says there's a lot of corn in Pennsylvania. I never would have known that. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
Pennsylvania,
Yeah.
you think of Hershey's, you think of Penn State. That's pretty much it. Then you don't think about it.
Yes.
Philadelphia, I think, is its own thing. It's like when people talk about Illinois, but you're really talking about Chicago. Like, I understand there's a difference there.
It's a whole other thing out here. It's different. It's scary. No, you know, depends where you go. What?
Wait, the corn's scary or just in general Pennsylvania scary?
in general, like you're 1 minute you're like corn, and then the next minute there's just a shit ton of deer, and it's like there's trees, and then there's like, then you go to Harrisburg, and then there's.
And see, Harrisburg, I feel like a town I've heard about. I've heard about Harrisburg, but I don't know what's going on in Harrisburg. I don't know why I've heard about it.
I live 20 minutes outside of Harrisburg. I don't know
What's popping in there. Is it a main city center for Pennsylvania?
Yes. It's like that's where the news stations are, and like the newspaper, or you know, those buildings, and like that's where the train, and there's an airport, and
it's the state capital. That's why I've heard about
it.
Okay.
Yeah. And there's a science center called the Whitaker Center, which is maybe the best part of Harrisburg, in my opinion. There's a hospital.
See, now this is just embarrassing. It's the state capital, but then according to Wikipedia, with a population of 50,099 in the 2020 census, Harrisburg is the 15th most populous municipality in Pennsylvania.
State capitals are bullshit.
They
man.
suck,
Yeah,
Brandon. Thank you for saying what the rest of the states are afraid to say. Like, it's dumb. We should re-vote. It should be like a Survivor thing where we all go like, come on now.
Like Nevada, it's Carson City. Like, who cares about Carson City? Sacramento sucks, dude.
It's, if anything, I think it's really just these states trying to prop up another city. Where they know, like Illinois, Springfield, nobody in their right mind would give a fuck about Springfield. You never go there unless you had to go there for this kind of thing, right? So you say that's what it is. Missouri, right? I-70 cuts right through it. You go St. Louis, you go Columbia, you go Kansas City, all great cities to hang out in. Unless you want to go to the capital, then you go down south to Jeff City. Like nobody would deviate off of I-70 to go there.
Yeah.
Garbage.
Kansas is just this one thing where they all shit in a bucket. That's their state capital. I forget what they call it, but that's where they do it.
Yeah.
By the way, do you curse in this podcast? Because I've been fucking dropping them if you haven't noticed. Sorry, just making sure. Sorry. I'm off my game. I should have been asking.
Yeah, state capitals. I don't get it. Why?
Yeah, no. I mean, it's from a different era, right? Where it was like, hey, everybody, we came out here, we put our little stake in the ground, literally, we have our covered wagons, and now I'm sure life will never get better than this grassy field right here in Harrisburg, so this will be the state capital now. And everybody's like, cool, I don't want to go further than this, I don't want to die. And then lo and behold, they were like, you know what? They got cheesesteaks up there, we should have done it up there. That was stupid. Why did we do it down here?
I couldn't imagine if Philly was the state. That it would be even more chaos. Like, nah.
I mean, Philadelphia seems like a nightmare. Every time they win a championship or whatever, the whole city gets burnt down.
That's just sports in general for big stuff. You can't get away from that. I got caught in the LA riot that one time when when the Lakers won. It happens. These things happen.
Sports.
Let me get the podcast back on the rails a little bit here. I was really surprised, Greg, when you picked this movie, because Makenna DM'd me, is like, hey, Greg's coming on the podcast. I was like, okay, we got to get like a really Greg Miller-ass movie for this. And there were a couple that popped into my mind that I was like, I hope he picks this one.
What'd you have?
Superman the movie, obviously. Sure. Any of the Richard Donner movies.
Yeah.
Great. I love those movies, so I would love to talk about them. But the one that like I really, really hoped you would pick is New Frontier.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, New Frontier, I watched and don't remember anything from it. Me and Nick have this conversation when we talk about DC animated films a lot of like, I didn't watch that. And then we like watched the trailer and I'm like, oh, you know what? I think I did watch this. It's just like at some point the sponge got so wet with information from the DC animated universe, it just went everywhere and I can't keep up with it. Why do you love New Frontier so much?
I mean, mostly I love that graphic novel.
Oh, sure. Yeah. Darwin Cook. Yeah.
Darwin Cook's just incredible. I think it's really like, if you want like, just like, reading Golden Age comic books kind of sucks. They're kind of bad. Yeah. But like
different era.
That is like capturing the entire Golden Age feel in like a modern book that really readable. It's really, really great. And I just thought it'd be fun to talk about that. Get to talk about the old style of Superman, the old style of Batman, all that stuff.
Well, since I didn't do the homework, we can still do that. You can just talk about that.
Well, Makenna hasn't seen New Frontier.
Makenna doesn't care about Superman. She just spent 15 minutes talking about Harrisburg for no reason. Don't get on my, you know what I mean?
Well, that's kind of what I want to do here. Is so Makenna's never seen a Batman movie.
Jesus Christ! How old are you, Makenna?
I'm 20. I just turned 21.
Like today? Are you doing shots yet?
A month ago I did. I haven't had an alcoholic beverage yet. One day.
Okay, fair enough.
It hasn't happened yet.
Hey man, don't rush yourself. If you don't want it, don't do it.
Yeah, one day. But yeah, no, I think the only DC movie I've seen is Wonder Woman.
Okay.
I think.
Did you like it?
I know yeah, I enjoyed it. It was, from what I can remember. I like Chris Pine. So
who doesn't love it? Everybody loves Chris Pine. Yeah, he's great.
But yeah, I think that's all I've got on DC.
Why have you like? Is it something you're actively avoiding? Are you all in on the MCU? Like, what's going on? Give me like, Fog of War is slowly revealing what Makenna is. I need more.
I've seen all the way up to Endgame in terms of Marvel. I haven't seen Endgame yet. I'm a little scared to watch it because I know I'll be sad, even though I know what happens, but it's just I'm not ready for it yet.
Didn't Infinity War kind of end sad though? Like you're like, you know what? I'll walk away with everyone, half the world dead. That's what I'll stop at.
So I watch movies really weird. Like I skipped around a bunch in Marvel in terms of like watching them in theaters. So I saw Infinity War in theaters, and then like I don't think I saw any other ones in theaters after that. And then I barely saw any before that, so it was just really confused. I didn't know what was happening.
Yeah, that'll do it if you don't know, if you're not watching them in the right order.
Yeah, things happened as oh no. But I sort of also knew it's like I had to think about it because I was like I knew there was a new Spider-Man coming out after Infinity War. I knew like all these other movies were trying, so I'm like they had to come back. So it was like I wasn't that sad, but at the same time I still cried. And then I think that's superhero. It's all the stuff I've seen. I think
just MCU stuff, and then Wonder Woman.
Yeah.
And now Superman, Man of Tomorrow.
And now Superman, Man of Tomorrow. Yeah, exactly.
It's a change. Yeah, okay. I see it. I see what I was from. Yeah, like I said earlier, I didn't want to pick something like, you know, I wanted to like super be engaged, and I just totally screwed it up. But like I wanted it to be something that was new for all of us kind of thing, where it was, you know, hey, let's jump into this and go. Because you don't need to hear me rant about Batman v Superman Ultimate Edition or Snyder Cut again, right? Like, and then, yeah, I guess Richard Donner, like, I mean, that's another one. Like, we haven't done Superman in review yet. You know, I think it's because Superman is, like, horribly unpopular. So Tim's like, that's just not going to perform well. But I would love to do that one day and talk about those movies. Because even then, it's like, you know, I love Christopher Reeve. I think he's an amazing Superman. I think those movies are awesome. Superman 1 and 2. Superman 3 is enjoyable kind of as a comedy, and Superman 4 is enjoyable as a train wreck. But like I think they did so much damage to the character in popular culture. Like, because it was just like establishing for generations, like, yep, Superman's indestructible and can rewind time at will. So, and he's a total alien, and he totally isn't Clark Kent at all. And I'm like, oh my God, like to watch, as a kid, you watch that and you're like, this is amazing. He's Superman. He's doing all these cool things. And then you watch it as, I think, a fan of the property more now. And it's like, oh my God, this screws up so much stuff that I think is like the very core of what Superman is.
Well, so like what for Makenna, because I've seen pretty much every Superman movie. I haven't seen like all the animated stuff. I read a lot of Superman comics. If you were going to recommend Superman movies or Superman media to Makenna, for like somebody who like this is her only exposure to Superman is this one animated movie, like what do you like? What do you think like captures the character really well?
And that's a great question. That's really hard to answer because obviously we're trying to recommend something that you could actually do. And so, like, I would go to comics, but if I was talking about live action stuff, I would go, and this isn't really what I'd end up recommending probably, is Smallville. I think Smallville's, for all of its problems, which are many, and again, you know, there's 10 seasons of Smallville, the majority of it is dog shit. But there are great episodes. There are, season 2, I think, is phenomenal in terms of building Superman lore into it and showing what this is. And above all, I think Clark's relationship with the Kents and, you know, having them as parents and seeing how Clark is Clark and Clark will become Superman, but that doesn't mean he has to go the full Christopher Reeve route of being well, I don't know, Lois, and being a total nerd and hiding from it and doing all these different things. Like, I think Smallville does better than any other live interpretation what I love about Superman, which is that he is this character. He is Clark Kent, and that means that he wants to help people, and he would help people with or without the superpowers, because that's how Jonathan and Martha raised him. And the powers just allow him to be good on a greater level. And so then it's about trying to do that, and then, you know, take on a Superman identity or something to shield his loved ones from harm in some way or another, and try to also then be this beacon of hope, and that people can rally behind and understand, and, you know, want to do good for it and want to support and be proud. I think, you know, the underlying message of Superman, right? And again, that I think, you know, I don't hate the DCEU, but like I always say, right? Like, that's not what I would have done. Like, if you would have given me hey, Greg, we're letting you start the DC cinematic universe, Man of Steel has things I would have done and then a lot I wouldn't have done. But the whole conversation about hope from Jor-El, you know, give them an ideal to strive to, give them a strive for, you know, they'll stumble, they'll fall, but in time they'll join you in the sun kind of thing. Like, that is such a great encapsulation of what I think about when I think about Superman, because it is this idea of having the symbol and having that, you know, the symbol mean hope in a way that I think you can totally apply to our incredibly jaded timeline right now of everything else, where it is so easy to be sarcastic and selfish and just take care of yourself and not worry about other people. But I do feel like when you, and again, it's probably just me and some, you know, some fans, but when you do put on the Superman shield, when you do that, like, that to me speaks to, at some level, you understand those values, that you want to be a good person, that you want to do right. You know, and I know I've talked about it many a time, but like, you know, 13 years of Catholic school I went to, and I don't stop and think when I pick up paper on the street or find a lost dog and try to get it home, I don't think what would Jesus do? I think what would Superman do? And it's not, you know, driven by, man, I'm trying to get ahead by being good. It's not, I feel like I'm being forced to be good. It's just that I think the values of helping and trying to be better. And, you know, I think right now, even the new, you know, Brandon message of, you know, truth, justice, and a better tomorrow is like such a great encapsulation of what that character is and what he wants, what I want to be in my own life, let alone what you want to see in a fictional character that, again, struggles because so many interpretations get it wrong in terms of he is all-knowing, all-powerful, you know, he's never doing anything wrong. Or I think, you know, the DCEU leaned too hard on him questioning his place. I like that story. I like those things, but, you know, listening, like, I thought it was interesting to have Jonathan, like, you know, do the, like, you know, should I let them die, when he's talking about the kids on the bus, right? And he's like, I don't know, maybe. Like, I remember seeing that and being like, wow, that's a really interesting take. But the fact that it resonates so long with Superman for so long, and then we're like, oh, that's rough. Like, I wish we could have gotten out of that. You know what I mean? Like, I also wish, you know, Henry Cavill is a mountain of a man, just a glorious human being. And so, like, when the tornado happens and Jonathan stops, it's like, you are not a 12-year-old boy. You are, you're Henry Cavill. They've aged you down the best they can, but run your ass over there at super speed and save him. Like, that should have been your moment to be like, okay, cool. And like, now they see that these people try, like, Smallville already wasn't turning on him. Pete already knew that he had powers. Lana already knew that he had power. I digress. But like, that's the kind of thing, like, it's so many different pieces of Superman exist in pop culture that I think get it right to some regard and do interesting things with the character. What I think is the hardest struggle is that, for me as a Superman fan, and again, this is a very selfish take, because if you talk to Gary Whitta is very much the opposite of me. He's almost the Kill Bill monologue, right? Of like, Kal-El is the person, Clark is the mask, that's how this works, he's an alien. And I think my interpretation of Clark being Clark and Superman being Clark, but just putting on a grander stage and using a different name kind of thing, still works in the fact that, yes, he's an alien, he has those things, he is an outsider, he feels that, but rather than let that alienate him, right, he lets his humanity win out, even though he doesn't technically have humanity, right? Like, he's not a human. There's so many different pieces of pop culture that do parts of Superman right, but then just don't get that right, where it's so hard for me to say, oh, McKenna, you should watch X, because it just doesn't exist. I would lean maybe a bit towards the animated series. Like, I think that does a really good job. I talked about it last time we did the community podcast. Like, one of my favorite moments in the animated series happens in the pilot, right? Where it is, and it's like, a standalone movie if you wanted it to be. On HBO Max, by the way. Should have done that. And it's, Superman shows up for the first time, pretty much, and there's this plane crashing, and he goes, and he flies up, and he grabs the tail of the plane, and the tail, of course, separates from the plane, and it just keeps going. And Superman has this moment where he has it, and he goes, nice job, Clark. And he flies in, and I remember watching that at home as a kid being like, they get it. Oh my God. You know what I mean? Like, it's not like, and even his Clark Kent in that thing, Tim Daly does a great job of doing a Clark that isn't like, ugh, like he bumbles a bit when he has to, but he's not like Christopher Reeve, where it was like, oh, you have to be over the top Steve Urkel dork so people don't think, like, what a horrible existence. Why would anyone want to do that? You know, why would you ever have that happen that way? And they do such a good job of it there.
Yeah, I think one of the best things that Superman Man of Tomorrow did was that it really does focus on Clark's struggle with knowing that he's an alien but not feeling like an alien.
Yeah.
He feels like a person, and I always like a Superman who, being an alien, is more like informs him on humanity than it is like alienates him from humanity.
For sure. I like that he can forget that he's an alien at times, right?
Yeah.
It isn't something that's always with him in front of him. There's those moments, and I think, again, you know, for the start of this movie, there's, you know, and it's pulled from American Alien, right, of watching the alien monster movie, right, and he breaks down in tears as a little kid because it is like, oh my God, this is how people would think of me if they knew what it was. And again, that's such a great, you know, piece of fiction to put out there to then make the core decision of why you'd hide these powers, right? Is that you don't want to be different. You just want to be normal. And again, Smallville does that so well. And again, hit or miss here and there, but like Clark wants to play football, right? He could go out there and, you know, score a touchdown every time. And Jonathan Kent is very clear, like, you could, and that's not what this is about. Like, that would be unfair to everybody. You need to, you know, live with this. You need to understand that, like, that just isn't how you should use these powers. And granted, Donner's Superman has a throwaway line about that too, right? Where Clark is the equipment boy or whatever, and then he comes home and he's like, and I can tell that guy apart, and he's like, you were put on this earth for a reason, right? And it's not to score touchdowns. Like, that's something that gets wrestled with a lot, but I think to varying degrees. And I hate, again, why I think Smallville is so great. Like, you watch the Reeve and Donner Superman, right? And like, I never get the feeling that Clark is Jonathan and Martha's child. I get very much that they are taking care of him. They're almost like a halfway house for him, right? And there's something, I think, maybe with the age gap there of, like, of course, Jonathan and Martha are so old in the 76 Donner movie, right from the start. I loved that, you know, John Schneider and Annette O'Toole in Smallville were contemporary parents, and they were raising him as their kid, and like, there was never a doubt that Clark was their son, and Clark never doubted that either, right? And there are those moments of, like, you know, feeling different and being different, but them always being there and having that dynamic and having just a regular family dynamic, even though they are very much not regular. And I think they play with that in really interesting ways of, like, letting Jonathan and Martha, their character, shine through, because again, that's what always makes Clark Superman to me, is the values he's taught by the Kents. And so, you know, to have Jonathan go out of his way to be helpful and trust people, there's, you know, something that always stuck with me. Like, this is how much of a loser dork I am for Smallville and Superman, right? Of like, I think it's when I think it's the doctor maybe that Lex is dating, who eventually finds out that Clark is an alien or whatever because of the blood. And Jonathan's very much like, you're going to look at this blood and it's going to change everything, but he has to trust her, and he does. And she doesn't show Lex, and it's a big deal. But at some point, they basically asked, like, how did you know you loved Jonathan? Or like, how did you know Jonathan was different to Martha? And Martha says, you know, one day at college after class, I came over to him and he was eating an apple. And I asked if I could borrow his notes. And he said, sure, here, and gave them to me. And I said, you're just going to give them to me? Like, this is the entire class. There's a final coming up. I'm paraphrasing, obviously. And he's like, yeah, like, I trust in the good of people. And I thought that was like that's such a, like, a core thing of what it is. And I, you know, I talk about that all the time, very publicly, right? Of like, I think, you know, my character and who I want to be, because I fuck up all the time. Like, I don't think Clark would be nearly as sarcastic and mean to his friends as we get on Kind of Funny sometimes. And sometimes we take it too far and we have to say pickles. And again, we have that relationship, and, you know, this isn't fictional. This is real life and real emotions. But it is that thing of so much of my character is informed by what I want to be and who I want to be and who I want the world to be. And it's very much what I was talking about with Superman, right? Where I think he sees the good in all people, but he also sees people fuck up all the time, right? On a grand scale, but he never loses the optimism. And so I think, you know, you see that with us all the time, where, you know, we trust somebody, we work with somebody, we have a guest on or something, and it turns out they are not cool. We thought they were cool and they are not cool. And it's like, okay. And like, that could easily steal us and guard us, and we become closed off and we don't want to open our doors to other people, right? And it's like, that's just not how it works. Like, I refuse to do that. I want to believe in the good of people. And when people are bad, I want to call out people for being bad, and I want them to be better, and I want them to, you know, make amends for what they've done. But that's on them. That's not on me. And so I can't take the sins of somebody else and apply them to somebody else, which I think is such a Superman thing. As he sees, you know, Lex be horrible, as he sees Star Labs do whatever terrible thing they're doing, depending on the continuity. Usually they're pretty good, but man, I'll tell you what, Emil Hamilton in the animated series, not the Emil we all thought he was he? You know, you have to be trusting. You have to put yourself out there, whether you're indestructible or not. So there's no live action Superman to watch. Long story short,
don't
I could make a Smallville must watch list, but even then, I think, you know, it's, and even I guess, you know, it's like one of those things. Like, I think Smallville's pretty great, and I think that's season 3 maybe. Jesus, but the Witch season is really where you're like, oh my god, the majority of this sucks. But then they kind of get back on at times, and they do things here and there. And then when Lois's introduction came, that was good, and blah blah blah. And the final season was fun, just to close it all off. But at that point, you're getting a Justice League show, pretty much.
Did I hear you? Did you say Tim Daly played?
Tim Daly is animated Superman for Superman animated series and Justice League, right? And then Justice League Unlimited, they switched it, I believe.
Like
Yeah,
Wings
that's
Tim?
Yeah, Wings Tim Daly. That's right. Yeah.
No way!
Yeah. Oh, dude, if you love Tim Daly that much, you should go look it up. I forget what it is anymore. I'm sorry, but him and his son did for a while a YouTube show or something. And so his son got cast as Superman in one of the animated films they were doing. And so then they did a whole thing that was like the passing of the torch. And like, it was him. It was Brandon Routh. I think they got back for it. They got Dean Cain involved. Like they had not all the Supermen, but a lot of Supermen in there that were like doing a different thing and making jokes about Lois and stuff. It was cute.
Oh my gosh. Oh, I gotta look that up then.
Shout out for knowing Wings. I don't feel like enough people talk about Wings.
I just finished Wings.
That is a psychotic thing to say in 2022, but I appreciate it.
See, it's like the whole Cheers Frasier thing, and then I was like, I gotta put Wings in there because
does it hold up at all? Like, I don't remember a single plot line from Wings, but I remember watching Wings with my parents every week because it was Tim Daly, his brother, Helen, the like waitress there, Roy was in there, the old lady, the guy who would be Monk. This is like Thomas Hayden Church's like first role is Lowell, right? Lowell, right? He was like the mechanic or whatever.
I enjoyed it. I thought it was fun. Yeah, I had a good
I feel like they would just
time.
put anything on TV back then. Like, you know what I mean? Like, whatever.
They were just like milking everything out of Cheers that they could, man.
Is that a spinoff of Cheers?
It's in the same universe. Like Norm and Cliff are in an episode. Oh my gosh, someone else.
Sam
Frasier,
shows up in an episode, right?
I don't think so. He shows up in Frasier. I know,
Okay.
but I don't think he ever shows up in Wings. Frasier and Lilith show up in an episode, and I think Rebecca shows up in an episode.
Dude, yeah, I never would have. I like how I just came through and named like a good portion of the IMDb page to some degree, and I would have never in a million years been like, and also it's in the Cheers universe.
Well, yeah, it's big fan.
What, they like in Pawtucket, Rhode Island? There's something like that, right?
It's
New Hampshire?
Nantucket,
Nantucket.
Massachusetts.
Massachusetts.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's like right off. Yeah, good. Let me tell you what. Good stuff right there. Except Hulu's weird. There's like 20 episodes missing because of like copyright music and everything. So it's like there's just random like plot holes. Because like I think it's like the second to last season, Helen's sister shows up and she becomes a regular. But like Hulu doesn't have the introduction, so she's just there all of a sudden. It's like, oh, I guess this is happening.
Is
now.
she red? Is she a redhead?
Yeah. Mhm.
Gotcha. Yeah. She's the one who married John Ritter, right? In real life.
Yes,
That
I believe
right.
so.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Rest in peace, John Ritter.
Rest in peace. Yeah, because then that's right, because John Ritter's in the show.
Dude, they were a package deal back in the late 80s, early 90s. You get one of them on the show, you know John Ritter. Or vice versa. If one of them's there, the other's going to pop up. You're going to do it.
Yeah, it's really fun going back and watching those shows and be like, oh shit, that's that person. Like, I had no clue Tony Shalhoub was in Wings. And like, oh, there he is.
What was his character in that? In
Antonio. He was a taxi driver.
Yeah. I remember the taxi driver part. I couldn't remember the name. Yeah. That was the thing when Monk started hitting. I was like, all right, cool. But I remember him from Wings. And everybody's like, what the fuck is Wings? I'm like, oh, all right.
Yeah, it was Tony Shalhoub might be my second favorite actor now.
Who's your first?
Like him. Tom Hanks.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Tom Hanks is great. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. I haven't seen a lot of movies, so like the list is pretty short. It's only at 2 people right now. It was at 1 before I watched Monk. Now it's at 2.
I appreciate that.
You know.
This is rare air to be in. You know what I mean? Like Tony Shalhoub should really be honored that he's made this list.
Yeah, I'm a big Tony Shalhoub fan. Very recent, but you know what? Tony Shalhoub, Shout out.
You've seen The Big Night. The Big Night's great.
I have seen The Big Night with the Tooch.
Dude,
It was-
I want you to know, like, literally, I was sitting there thinking of The Big Night, searching for Stanley Tucci's name, and I could not come up. How is Stanley Tucci not on this? I love Stanley Tucci.
I've only ever seen him in The Big Night.
Oh
Maybe
my God.
if I
What
watched
about,
more movies-
oh, God, there was something. I mean, he's in a million things. Crap. There was something.
He's like one of the all-time great character actors.
He's such a
Like,
great
he did
character
so
actor.
much stuff.
I'm thinking of something like Pretty Woman, but it's not Pretty Woman that he's in. But he's like a similar kind of thing there. Doesn't matter. But Stanley Tucci's amazing.
Yeah.
Last Glass Gaming tosses out Transformers. Not what I was going for, but yeah.
Marvelous Miss Maisel.
I haven't watched that.
He's in Devil Wears Prada.
That sounds right.
And
That sounds like
Easy A.
Easy A. He's such a great dad in Easy A.
Oh, he was in Beauty and the Beast. Who's he?
I'm gonna look up and see how many Stanley Tucci movies are on HBO Max.
I was gonna say this is where you got to take this show now. HBO Max on the Tooch. That's what you call it.
Tooch month.
Oh, Hunger Games. Yeah. He's got that show too, where he just makes food now, right? Where he travels around.
Oh
eating
yeah,
food
he's
or
got like a
whatever.
travel show.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh! Look
Julie
at him
and
go.
Julia. Yeah. Stanley Tucci, one of those guys. He's just in everything good.
Yeah, he is.
That's incredible.
Him and Tom Hanks is the other one. You put Tom Hanks in on a movie poster, I'm like, I'll watch it, whatever. I'm in. I watched that one where he went around and read the news of the world. I was like, all right, this is fun. I just like to see Tom Hanks do stuff. Now he's gonna be in that Elvis one, right? That looks good.
Oh yeah.
Oh.
God, he's doing like a voice on that. It's so weird.
Come on now, Elvis. Yeah, one of those things. Yeah.
Uh, yeah, the movies. I don't know about movies. I know about
Okay.
Tom Hanks and Tony Shalhoub.
Greg, I got a Superman question for
Sure,
you.
please.
So now that you're a father and you're a
Yep.
huge Superman fan, I feel like you're at the perfect point to answer this question. At the beginning of Man of Tomorrow, there's that scene of Mom and Pa Kent having a conversation about like letting Clark know that he was an alien. They feel like maybe they told him too soon and stuff.
He's wearing
One,
glasses, and Jonathan's getting yelled at about it. Yeah,
Neil Flynn, so good as Jonathan Kent.
Agreed.
Great voice.
agreed.
Make him cast him for the actual live action. He's so good. Love Neil Flynn. If Clark was your son, when would you tell him that he's an alien?
It's a great question. I would do it early. Like, again, I think you're gonna have the powers he starts to develop, and as they start to poke through, you need to have those conversations to explain like why this is happening, why you can't tell anybody about it. Because that's the thing, right? I think if any of us could fly or lift the truck, right? Like, you'd want to show your friends. You'd want to nerd out about that to it. But, like, you understand that, of course, there's a whole bunch of ramifications to this of you being literally an illegal alien. Like, you know what I mean? The fact that the government would want you for scientific experiments, the fact that people would be scared of you. Like, those are all things you have to wrestle with. And I think, again, for the Kents, you know, not knowing where those powers are going to go. You know, how powerful he will get, what will happen, what he can and can't control too. Like, there's so many things in there that are unknowns that I don't think I'd let that go. I think the kid needs to understand from an early point that, like, when this is weird and it sounds like I'm making a joke, I'm not. When, you know, you're in class and they're talking about how your body's going to go through changes, they're not the same changes you're going through. So, like, if you start to feel something that seems weird, go away from all the people, come home, get it, you know, do all those different things. Like, you have to shield them that way from it as they learn to wrestle with it. Because I think even, like, you know, for you being a comic reader, you know, when they introduced Jonathan to main continuity here and him and the Kents were living on the farm, like, they did such a great job with that of, like, you know, where he kills their cat. Like, he cooks their cat alive with his heat vision by accident. And it's not done as a horror thing. It's not done as a shock or a joke. It's done as a, I don't know what to do. And, like, Clark and Lois having to talk him through that and make him understand. And the fact that they used that over and over again, like, that came back in that run where it was, hey, like, we're talking about this being a definitive moment for him where he killed something he loved, that this is a real threat and real fear. And how do you wrestle with that as a kid who is different?
That moment was so heartbreaking in the comics. Like, I remember reading that issue when it came out and just being like, oh, fuck. Like, that was tough to get through.
For sure, yeah. And so, yeah, I think you have to tell him early, and I think you have to, you know, keep it in. Like, you know, again, Jonathan does such a good thing not a good thing, I guess, but like what I would do, right? Where when he picks him up from the house and puts him in the car and they're on the ride home, he is like, you didn't. So he's like, so that scared you, and like, did you say anything? Did you tell anybody? Did you explain why it did? Like, he's trying to take care of Clark, but then also trying to take care of the secret, which is obviously somewhere I think you'd really fall. Did either of you? And actually, McKenna, I know you. No Tony Shalhoub, no Tom Hanks. Brandon, did you watch the Superman movie that wasn't a Superman movie from James Gunn's brother Sean?
Brightburn?
Yep, there it is. Thank you much.
I didn't see Brightburn. No.
Oh, really? Oh, I recommend it. Yeah, it's one of those things again. Like, as somebody who's just like, they haven't done a really great Superman movie. They would take too many liberties. Like this one being very specifically like we're making Superman into a horror movie. I thought that was a really, really good interpretation of taking the mythos and narrative and all that stuff and seeing like the branching points of like, yeah, what if Superman was sent here to conquer, right? And what if like, you know, the parenting wasn't nearly as good as the Kents to make sure, not that it was like bad parenting, but like, what if it just, the love of the Kents couldn't actually anchor Clark to humanity?
I'll have to watch it. I'll have to put it on the list.
I don't know if it's on HBO Max, everybody. I'm sorry. You have to start a new podcast to watch it.
Ooh. I did have a question. What is there like a specific time period that this like Superman happens, or is it
the Man of Tomorrow, the one we just watched, or the other one I watched 20 minutes?
That, or just like any of them? Yeah.
Usually they're modern tales. I mean, it depends. It's usually meant to be concurrent with whatever time period it is. And I say usually, I'm painting with a very broad brush. I'm sure there's money. You talk about New Frontier, right, and stuff like that, where they're playing with timelines. But usually, yeah, it's meant to be here. And I thought that was another one where, you know, the Superman Man of Tomorrow from here, or like when Clark's trying to tie his tie and he's FaceTiming his parents and his parents don't know how to use FaceTime. Like, that's a cute thing that, again, you don't see much of them deal with, right? And it's the same thing of like, if you want to go to like Lois and Clark, the New Adventures of Superman, a scene that always stood out to me there was the first time Lois comes back to Smallville. Clark and her aren't dating. They get, you know, roped in for some kind of story that they're there, and they end up at the Kent's house, obviously. And so, you know, again, you've grown up with, or I've grown up with this interpretation from the Donner films of like these grandparents that live in a farm, right? And like have nothing going on. And so when Lois gets there and is like trying to, she's like, do you have, and she's trying to explain a fax machine with some, where could I go to put, and she's like, you mean a fax machine? And she's like, Martha takes the thing off. She's like, you have to have a fax machine to live out here. It was like such a, hey, this is a modern interpretation of what that would be and what those parents would be.
Interesting.
Did the movie make you question when and where it was happening?
Yeah, sort of, because it was like, I know Superman obviously been around a bit, and it was like modern technology, so I didn't know if there was like specific, like, obviously, I was just like, the question.
The city is like really stylized to look like futuristic and stuff. It's not like the normal metropolis that is just like 1980s Toronto for some reason.
Yeah. I like it when they double down on that in the City of Tomorrow, because again, that's the thing of like, you know, Metropolis is meant to be bright, shining, you know, glistening buildings and like, you know, amazing skyscrapers, and like Gotham is meant to be dark and dreary and like terrible.
Oh, you got a question, McKen?
Oh no, well, it's a dumb question.
Hit me with it.
Okay, let's go.
You asked me how many ears of corn I've eaten in one sitting. I don't know. I think you're all right to say whatever the fuck you want from here on out.
So, you know how like towards the beginning of the film when the security guard breaks the phone, do you think that it's sort of like breaking an apple where like you don't twist it but you just like snap it in half? Like, do you think, is that how you
I feel like phones are always broken in weird ways in movies where like, I don't know if that would actually stop it. You know what I mean? Like, because I think you'd have to like pulverize stuff to get rid of it. But how many times you watch like a Jason Bourne movie and they like break the flip phone in half, and I'm like, do they really? I mean, like.
Like you're like snapping a single cord that just like powers the screen when you do that, right?
Yeah, exactly, right? Like I feel like you really got to really smash this thing to get it offline and do it. But then again, I'm not even sure how much you're really tracking me, how it's really going. So who knows?
Yeah.
Greg, for the listeners, what's some like good like graphic novels here? I know you've done some recommendations before and stuff, but just like if they're listening to this, they like your pitch for Superman, what he means.
I think American Alien still stands up. I think American Alien, you know what I mean, separate the art from the artist kind of thing. American Alien is a really great interpretation, especially for a modern take on Superman. This is happening out of continuity. It is some of the touchstones we saw at the beginning of the movie, and then goes a little bit out with it. But it is a great one. And there's so many great parts of it. Like first off, you know, he fights Lobo in the comic, and obviously the inspiration for fighting Lobo here. But what I love about in the comic, Lobo's the first like, you know, metahuman he's fought, the first superpower threat he's fought. And so like when Lobo starts really smashing up Metropolis, you know, there's a scene where Lobo's like, are you crying? And Superman's like angry crying, which resonates so much with me, of course, because like I cry when I get angry, and then on top of that, like him seeing the death and destruction wrought by Lobo coming up and screwing up Metropolis, I think that's really powerful. And the same thing I always go back to, when it's Kenny and Pete come to visit from Smallville, and Clark picks him up at the train station, and they're walking back, and he's like, oh, and he's explaining, they're talking casually about him being Superman, and I think it's Kenny who's like, man, you must never take off your glasses. Then he's like, I take off my glasses all the time. And he's like, what do people say? And he goes, they say, hey, you look a lot like Superman. Because, like, who would think Superman's riding the subway with them or walking around? It's like, oh, man, like, that's such a fun... Yeah, you wouldn't think. That, we get so caught up on what a dumb disguise it is for the most part. But then it is that thing of, like, oh, yeah, like, you wouldn't think you're at the grocery store with Superman, because he does come off as coming from the heavens, coming down like a god, and that does help out real there. So Makenna is always a good jumping on point, I think. I always say if you want to... I'm hit or miss on if I want an origin story. You know what I mean? I have to be in a mood or whatever. So if you're trying to get past that and you understand Superman came to Earth, Superman falls in love with Lois Lane. That's great. I always recommend Superman Last Son. He's going to get it, isn't it? Jeff Johns and Richard Donner, right? Richard Donner, really, of course, did the Superman films. He came and co-wrote this with Jeff Johns, and it was in continuity to an extent, but it also serves kind of as like, this could be a sequel to the motion pictures if you wanted it to be. And it is, Superman and Lois, again, dealing with a very human struggle of not being able to conceive a child and what that's meant to them and where they're going. And then lo and behold, the Kryptonian boy falls from outer space. And so, Superman and her try to do the right thing and turn it over to the government, because of course they can't take care of this kid. The government, of course, backstabs them. Superman breaks it out. It's the great stuff of them going back to the Kents. There's a great scene of like, the door opens and it's Clark there with this kid, and he's like, whatever it is, 30 years ago you took in a boy and like, with no paperwork, show me how you did that. And like, it's such a cool thing. And like, the story then goes a whole bunch of different places and gets into, Zod and Non and Ursa and all that and stuff. But a great book and a great read. I think that it doesn't require lots of Superman to jump into. And so those are the ones I throw out. I know people always throw out All-Star Superman. For me, All-Star Superman's a bit too Golden Age, Silver Age, where it is just like, Superman's invulnerable. Isn't this cool? And Lois doesn't know who he is. I'm like, I don't know. That doesn't really do it for me.
Yeah, I really like All-Star Superman. I have it up there. It's a book that I've read a few times, but it's so alien Superman.
Yeah.
It really doesn't have a lot of the emotional beats that I like in a Superman story.
100%. I'm right there with you.
Oh. So, okay, Superman, Kryptonian.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's obviously like there's different species, different aliens and whatnot. Do they all have like similar attributes? So like, do all Kryptonians have the heat vision? Can they all fly, or are they just
under the influence of Earth's yellow sun? Yes, all Kryptonians would have Superman's abilities. Now, this is where it gets interesting, too, for when you will, of course, go watch the movie Man of Steel after this.
Right.
Zod and a bunch of the Kryptonians show up on Earth or whatever. And this is one of the things that I hate about this movie that breaks it for me, is that Superman's decided to be Superman finally, right? He's never fought anybody superpowered, and then Zod shows up and has equal abilities pretty much instantaneously. And they do a whole thing about like atmosphere, and it's stupid. But like, he shows up and he's got it. And it's like the fact that Zod doesn't just kick the shit out of Superman immediately always pisses me off. Because I always say, like, right now, you give me Superman's abilities, awesome. And then you put me up against a Marine who also has Superman's abilities, that guy's going to kick my ass in 2 seconds. I don't know what I'm doing. And, like, Zod's like, I've been trained to fight since birth. And I'm like, cool. And he literally, what were you trained to do? Work on a farm, raised on a farm? He's like, yeah, like, I don't know shit about throwing a punch. And you're just doing it nonstop. Oh, hold on. Another good one here. C Porky 92 shouts out in the chat. Superman smashes the Klan. That is a good one. That is a period piece of Superman taking on the Ku Klux Klan, and through the eyes of an Asian American family who moves to a different neighborhood in Metropolis, and they're like, "This is a whites only neighborhood" kind of thing. Really good, inspired by the Superman serial radio show that like really fucked up the Ku Klux Klan when it came out. People were like, you're right, the Ku Klux Klan is stupid. That's a really good one. It is, again, a different interpretation, a different Superman, a period piece. I think, if memory serves, he doesn't fly in that one, right? He rides the power lines, I think, which is like a classic-y thing of that. But another one, too, that does wrestle with, like, hey, I'm an alien. What does that mean? But more importantly, it's cool to see Superman wrestling with being an alien, and then, of course, this Asian American family wrestling with being outsiders to the place they've moved to.
The heat. Okay, wait, no. let me not go to the heat vision. My stupid comment on heat vision.
What's your stupid
Okay.
comment on heat vision? I want to hear it.
I just think it'd be really cool. So in Man of Tomorrow,
Yeah.
he heats up a beverage with his heat vision.
Yeah.
Now I don't know if anybody else struggles with heating up beverages, but for some reason I just don't do it right. And
Too hot.
Too hot, or it just doesn't work at all. It
Oh.
doesn't. I'm real bad at heating up milk.
Okay.
I just think it'd be really nice to have heat vision and actually.
Oh my
properly-
God, Superman's got so many cool powers that would be like just nice to have in the moment, right? Heat vision for sure. Like if I always think about like when you got like a thread hanging and you can't rip it really easily, just like singe it off real quick. In the comics, I'm sure certain things. I think in the animated series, yeah, he has a mirror that he shaves with that way, where he bounces the heat vision off and burns his hair off his face. That's a cool way to shave. Come on,
Oh my God.
right?
That's so like okay. In that instance, the heat doesn't melt the mirror then, or like
No, it's
doesn't it
bouncing
break-
back like a laser.
Oh, duh. Okay, yeah, no. Okay, that makes sense. I forgot. Yeah, laser property. Yeah, okay.
I mean, you didn't forget, like, again, everybody's different. Everybody has something different, right? Like, Smallville's heat vision is very much not lasers. It is, like, heat waves or whatever coming out and burning stuff. And again, you want to talk about a good take on heat vision, too. Like, how do you introduce all this stuff? Heat vision in Smallville, the first time Clark gets it is when when he's going through puberty and is getting turned on. Like, and then he has to have this conversation when he comes back to his parents. Like, so what were you thinking about? And he's like, I was thinking about sex. And they're like, oh, okay. So like, then they have to try to like he's like, if we can figure out the trigger, we can figure out how to do it without the sex part or whatever. And like so throughout the series, right? Like when a new power would get introduced, Jonathan would help Clark through it of like how to deal with it, right? Like I always come back to the X-ray vision. The first time Clark gets his X-ray vision, right? He sees into the girl's locker room, which is funny. He didn't do it on purpose. But he also sees Pete down to his muscles, right? But then like they're doing a test in the thing and Jonathan reaches into his pocket and he goes, Clark, what's in my hand? And Clark goes, it's your pocket knife. And he goes, you saw through my hand. And Clark just goes, no, you always keep your pocket knife in that pocket. And I always thought that was a funny gag. But anyways, the heat vision thing, yeah, he comes home after starting a fire at school after his hot substitute teacher made him think about sex or whatever. And then like Jonathan's all right, well, let's go into the field and train. And so they go out there and Clark's like, for this one, can you like go away? He's like, yes, I'll leave you alone. And he like walks away so Clark can sit there and get horny, but also figure out how to use heat vision. It's good stuff.
You're really selling me on Smallville.
I mean, Smallville again is like, remember the incubator for every CW show that would come before. Remember, it runs 10 years and then Arrow starts the Arrowverse. And I think maybe it dovetails a little bit, but you understand what I'm saying. So like, it is very much like season 1 is Freak of the Week, where every episode there's a new meteor freak that's shown up because Clark came in the meteor shower. It also left kryptonite all over, so people are dealing with the effects of being exposed to kryptonite radiation. And then there's still great Superman parts in that, of course, of like whatever, but it is very much like this Amy Adams shows up and she used to be fat, but now she's super skinny and now she can eat. She eats people. She dislocates her jaws and eats people, and like. But then season 2 is when they were like, you know what, let's actually double down on the Superman mythos. And that's when they do Heat, the episode that is that. They do, Whisper when he gets his super hearing. And they have Christopher Reeve come guest star and explain, hey, he's like this, he's Dr. Virgil Swan. He's been studying the Kryptonian stuff, message he got years and years and years ago forever. And now, he's went into like hiding about it. And so he invites Clark over because he figures out that Clark is the offspring of Jor-El and Lara, and he's deciphered the message and gives it to Clark and teaches him about Krypton. And it's like such an amazing passing of the torch moment to have Christopher Reeve back in the Superman mythos, because this is of course after his accident. He is paralyzed. He is in his wheelchair as Dr. Virgil Swan and stuff, and some of his last like acting stuff.
Interesting. I have one more Superman question. Okay, so he's Kryptonian. Isn't the weakness Krypton, like the element?
Sure. So again, it's changed. It's going to go where you want to go with how the interpretation going. Generally, the idea here is that Krypton was not poisonous to Kryptonians when they lived on it. It was that when Krypton exploded, there's obviously a chemical chain reaction or whatever, and then as it hurtles through space, it actually changes into that meteor green rock. And also red rock and, all the colors of the rainbow kryptonite. But for this argument, gold kryptonite. Put on this ring, you'll lose your power forever. It is like basically irradiated. I'm not Neil deGrasse Tyson, but some kind of chemical thing has happened, some kind of property change based on the explosion, kind of like a mini Big Bang, and then it following Clark out or into the universe in general. That fact, the way it tumbled, the way it went through, like, what's the deal with, like, there's some kind of radiation ring around the Earth or some shit like that, right? That you go through when you come and go or whatever, like in real life, not even in comics, like stuff like that. It's changed the properties and the makeup of it that then make it toxic to Kryptonians and instantaneously. And then again, your interpretation, it'll make kryptonite hazardous to humans over long periods of time, most of the time.
Oh, okay, that makes sense. Yeah, okay. All right.
That makes sense. That checks out. That checks out on my planetary knowledge database. All right, great.
Yes. My 3 science gen eds I had to take. Yeah, it sounds about right.
They talked a lot about planets exploding and turning into meteorites.
Exactly. Yeah, you know.
Yeah. It's pretty common.
Yeah. I took astronomy once. Don't take astronomy. It's not fun. Well, it is. No. Brandon.
Yep.
Do you have any concluding thoughts or questions or feelings?
Superman, good. Love
Superman,
him.
good.
Good guy.
Superman is good.
Superman, good.
Superman, good.
Superman, good. And Greg, do you have any concluding thoughts, feelings, or questions?
I want you to watch some Superman stuff. You know what I mean? I want you to get in there. I want you to try some stuff out. You got Hulu. Smallville is on Hulu. I think you could jump in. You could have some fun there. For sure. I forget who it was recently. Oh, no, they were talking about the Lois and Clark. Here's what I would say. For your HBO Max watch list, I would watch the 2-part pilot for Superman the Animated Series, and then also watch the pilot for Lois and Clark, The New Adventures of Superman. Different interpretations, but also from a base level of what a modern Superman is, I think they both do it well for their time periods and what they're up to.
Okay.
Thank you for taking notes and writing this down. It means a lot to me.
I am, don't worry. It's color-coded too, don't worry.
Love it. Love it.
Thank you very much, Greg, for coming on. Where can the people find you?
You can find me talking about Superman and all sorts of comic book stuff over on youtube.com/kindafunny, where we have shows where we do things in review. Upcoming next week, we are going back to the DC Extended Universe and ranking Peacemaker among all the other DC EU properties. It's going to be interesting to see where it ranks, because we were very high on the show, but are we higher than Birds of Prey? We'll find out.
Ooh, fun stuff. Brandon, where can the people find you?
The people can find me on twitter.com/Jose Ruckus, and now mostly at twitch.tv/Jose Ruckus, streaming a lot of Fortnite, trying to stream board game stuff every week. Greg, if you want to get these hands in some Monopoly, you know where to send a DM.
Are you, when you say that, are you streaming it in like the game? Are you playing it on a board, or are you playing like Monopoly video games?
So last night we played Ticket to Ride through Steam and stuff.
Okay.
And I don't know if they've got Monopoly on Steam, but
I've already told you guys about the properties of the Monopoly iOS version. All right, it's very good. You can play that, but yes, I'm sure Monopoly is on Steam, and yes, I would gladly come play you a Monopoly.
Hell yeah, bring it.
You can find me on Twitter at PotterPants212. There's a link in my bio to find everywhere else you can find me. And you can follow the show on Twitter at HBO Max, HBO MAKS. And then there's links to the YouTube and to the Spotify and to audio services.
Around the globe.
Around the globe, of course. Apologies. And yes, so thank you once again, Greg, for coming on. Thank you as always, Brandon. And go watch some stuff.
Go watch some stuff.
That's a great sign off. Go watch some stuff, yeah.